the heart of the city, shrouded by the whispers of the night, stood the abandoned Mercy Grove Hospital. Its once pristine walls now bore the scars of neglect, and its empty corridors echoed with the haunting remnants of the past. Few dared to venture near, for tales of the hospital's dark history lingered like a curse. Sarah, a young journalist with a penchant for the macabre, saw an opportunity to uncover the truth behind the hospital's closure. Armed with her camera and a heart filled with curiosity, she stepped into the desolate halls, her footsteps echoing with a foreboding rhythm. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and shadows danced menacingly in the dim light. Sarah's pulse quickened as she ventured deeper, her eyes darting nervously at every creak and groan of the building. As she explored, she stumbled upon a forgotten ward, tucked away in the farthest corner of the hospital. The door groaned open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the feeble glow of her flashlight. Against her better judgment, Sarah stepped inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The air grew colder, and the silence was suffocating. Rows of empty beds lined the ward, each one a silent witness to the tragedies that had unfolded within these walls. But Sarah's curiosity drove her forward, deeper into the heart of darkness. As she moved further into the ward, she began to hear whispers, faint, indistinct murmurs that seemed to echo from the very walls themselves. The whispers grew louder, filling the air with a cacophony of voices, each one more desperate and anguished than the last. Sarah covered her ears, trying to block out the haunting sound, but it only seemed to grow stronger, more insistent. Suddenly, a chill ran down her spine as she felt a presence watching her from the shadows. She spun around, her flashlight casting wild shadows across the room, but there was nothing there, just the empty beds and the oppressive weight of the silence. Heart racing, Sarah turned to leave, but the door had vanished, leaving only a blank wall in its place. Panic clawed at her throat as she realized she was trapped, alone in the darkness with whatever lurked within these walls. She frantically searched for another exit, but the windows were boarded shut, and the walls seemed to close in around her. Desperation gnawed at her insides as the whispers grew louder, their words unintelligible, yet filled with an unmistakable sense of dread. And then, in the flickering light of her flashlight, she saw them, shadows twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes, their eyes gleaming with malice. With a scream of terror, Sarah turned and ran, her footsteps echoing through the empty ward. But no matter how fast she ran, the shadows seemed to follow, closing in around her with each passing moment. As she reached the end of the corridor, she stumbled and fell, the darkness swallowing her whole. And as her screams faded into the night, the whispers continued, their chilling refrain echoing through the halls of Mercy Grove Hospital, a grim reminder of the horrors that lay hidden within its walls. And then, silence. But just when it seemed that all was lost, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the darkness, beckoning her forward. With trembling hands, Sarah reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold surface of the wall. And then, with a gasp of disbelief, she felt it. A door, hidden in plain sight all along. With a surge of hope, she pushed it open, stepping out into the cool night air. But as she emerged into the moonlit street, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching her, waiting in the shadows for its next victim. The mystery of Mercy Grove Hospital remained unsolved, its secrets buried deep within its crumbling walls. And as Sarah disappeared into the night, the whispers of the forgotten ward lingered on, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the realm of human understanding. I lay there on the cold, sterile hospital bed, surrounded by the suffocating scent of antiseptic. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. It was past midnight, and the hospital corridors were eerily silent, save for the occasional distant sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread that had settled over me like a heavy blanket. My mind was racing with fear and uncertainty, wondering what horrors awaited me in this place of healing. Little did I know that the true terror was yet to come. It started innocently enough, with strange noises drifting through the thin walls of my room. Faint whispers, like the murmurs of lost souls, filled the air, sending shivers down my spine. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination running wild, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. As the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if trying to communicate some dark secret. I pulled the scratchy hospital blanket tighter around me, trying to block out the unsettling sounds, but they seemed to seep into my very soul. Then came the footsteps, slow, deliberate, drawing closer with each passing moment. I held my breath, listening intently as they approached my door. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum, a primal instinct warning me of impending danger. Suddenly, the door creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. I couldn't make out any features, just a vague silhouette hovering in the doorway. Panic surged through me, paralyzing every muscle in my body as I watched the figure step into the room. Who are you?" I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. But the figure remained silent, advancing toward me with slow, deliberate steps. I felt a chill run down my spine, a primal fear unlike anything I had ever experienced before. It was as if the very air around me had turned icy cold, suffocating me with its malevolent presence. I tried to scream, to call out for help, but no sound escaped my lips. It was as if I had been robbed of my voice, my very essence consumed by the darkness that now enveloped me. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence of the hospital room. But the terror lingered, gnawing at the edges of my sanity, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked within these walls. I lay there for what felt like an eternity, trapped in a waking nightmare from which there was no escape. And as the first light of dawn crept through the window, casting long shadows across the empty room, I knew that I would never be the same again. For in the depths of that hospital, I had glimpsed the true face of fear, a darkness that would haunt me until the end of my days. And though I may have escaped with my life, a part of me would forever remain trapped within those haunted halls, a prisoner of the horrors that lurked within. Days turned into weeks, and still, the memory of that night haunted me, a specter lurking in the recesses of my mind. Every creak of the hospital floorboards, every flicker of the lights sent a shiver down my spine, a constant reminder of the terror I had endured. But it was not just the memory of that one night that tormented me. Strange things began to happen in the hospital, unexplained phenomena that defied all logic and reason. Patients would disappear without a trace, their beds left empty, their whereabouts unknown. Rumors spread like wildfire through the hospital wards, whispers of ghosts and demons haunting the halls, preying on the souls of the living. Some claimed to have seen shadowy figures lurking in the darkness, while others spoke of strange voices echoing through the empty corridors. I tried to dismiss the stories as nothing more than the fevered imaginings of frightened minds, but deep down, I knew there was something sinister at work in this place, something ancient and malevolent, lurking just beyond the reach of human comprehension. And then, one fateful night, I found myself face to face with the true horror that lurked within the walls of the hospital. It was late, and I had been unable to sleep, haunted by the memories of that night so long ago. I wandered the empty corridors, my footsteps echoing in the darkness, when I heard a faint sound coming from the end of the hall. Curiosity mingled with fear as I approached, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. And then I saw it, a figure, hunched and twisted, its eyes burning with an otherworldly light. I froze in terror, unable to move as the creature advanced toward me, its footsteps echoing like a death knell in the silence. I tried to run, to escape the horror that pursued me, but it was no use. The creature was upon me in an instant, its icy grip closing around my throat like a vice. I struggled and thrashed, but it was no use. I was powerless against the darkness that now consumed me. And as the world faded to black around me, I knew that I had become just another victim of the hospital's twisted legacy. A warning to all who dared to enter its haunted halls. For once you enter, there is no escape from the horrors that lie within. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion as I drifted in and out of consciousness, haunted by nightmares that seemed all too real. I could feel the darkness closing in around me, suffocating me with its malevolent presence. But even in my darkest moments, a flicker of hope remained, a belief that somehow, some way, I would find a way to escape the clutches of the hospital's curse. And so I clung to that hope with all the strength I had left, determined to defy the darkness that threatened to consume me. As the weeks turned into months, I began to notice subtle changes in the hospital, signs that the curse was weakening, its grip on reality loosening with each passing day. The whispers grew fainter, the shadows less menacing, as if the hospital itself was finally beginning to heal. And then, one day, I awoke to find myself lying in a hospital bed, bathed in sunlight, the sounds of birdsong drifting in through the open window. It was as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders, a burden I had carried for far too long. I knew then that the darkness that had haunted me for so long was finally gone, banished by the light of a new day. And though the memories of that night would always linger in the corners of my mind, I knew that I had emerged from the darkness stronger than ever before. For in the end, it was not the horrors of the hospital that defined me, but the courage and resilience that had carried me through the darkest of times. And as I stepped out into the warm embrace of the sunlit world, I knew that I was finally free from the nightmare that had once held me captive.